Most of the partygoers were gone before Frances rounded the far side of the house, yawning. "Stop on up, Raph," she said. "We'd love to see you out at the farm." And then she was bound for home. "You'd think she'd at least ask what happened to Nick," Raphael said, as her truck pulled from the drive. "I expect she's used to him taking off on his own," Rosella said. "He's an odd bird, Nick." "Artistic," Raphael said, in a word. From the dark corner behind the spruce, there came a climbing strum of metallic notes. "Why, Mr. Flaherty," Rosella said, "I thought you'd gone home." "I just happened to come across my banjo," he said. He winked at Rosella. "Turns out somehow it was right there all along." He played a simple tune, old style, clawhammer. As he sang, the wattle at his throat swung back and forth like an old turkey's hen's, and his voice was just as cracked and parched. Raphael recognized the tune, and Rosella sang a few words, her voice warbling on the high notes. "She walks through the fields leading down to the river. Her hair shines like gold in the bright morning sun. She took all the love that a poor boy could give her, and left him to die like a fox on the run. Like a fox, like a fox, like a fox on the run." When Tice Flaherty was finished, Rosella and Raphael clapped, and he stood to take a grave bow. "Encore," Raphael said, but Tice Flaherty shook his head. "It's a poor dog that don't know when the day is over, and this dog's day is done," he said. "I thank you for your hospitality." He packed his banjo away, stored it on the porch. "Tell Dwight to bring it when he comes," and walked home. Through the kitchen windows they could hear the distant clink and chatter of dishes. Elizabeth was at the sink. Out in the yard, under the sugar maple, the murmur and laugh of the card-playing grandsons rose and fell in a stream. An occasional curse stood out like a rock. Rosella made the rounds of the picnic tables, the bar, the chairs, the card players, picking up plates, scraping leftovers into a bag for the dogs, stacking plastic cups for washing, unpinning Clark's flag from the dogwood limb. With everything piled neatly on the carriage rock, she tossed one end of the flag to Raphael. They stretched it out between them, Raphael folding from the stripes, one horizontal fold, then another, then one triangle, followed by another. His hands remembered the routine his head had forgotten long ago. Joe Ray, still asleep, shifted his weight with a grunt. "I thought I asked you to talk to your oldest brother about his drinking," Rosella said. "I thought you asked me just the opposite." "Well, I didn't mean for you to come right out and say it to his face." Lord, what a thought. Rosella's lips drew thin at the notion. "That's the problem with you Californians. You think everything has to be tackled head-on. Like everything under the sun that people do has got an explanation, and if you talk long enough, you'll find out what it is. When the only real thing you can really do is give things a little nudge, and then hope for the best." Rosella kicked Joe Ray's foot with her toe. His head lolled to one side. "Like with your brother. You can talk about something without saying it. You can talk to him about his drinking. Just be careful not to mention it." "Joe Ray is right," Raphael said. "I have been in California too long." "Well, maybe it's for the best. Who am I to say?" Rosella said with a sigh. "All your cards thrown right down face up on the table. Problem is, what good does it do for people to put all their cards face up on the table when none of us is ever playing with a full deck? And I don't accept nobody from that." She raised an eyebrow and tilted her chin at Raphael. "Not nobody." "He's a lot like you," Rosella said. "Nick Handley, that is. Artistic. For God's sake, Mother, he runs a tobacco farm." "That's not to say he couldn't sell it off. If I was as young as you, that's what I'd do. Sell it off and then head to California." "I'm not so young, Mother." "Why, 34, Rosella said gaily. "At 34, I was carting you around in diapers, and I still trapped the best fox in Jessup County." Her hands shaped the length and heft of that fox. Not that I'm so old now. She sat with a heave in one of the empty Adirondacks, the folded flag in her lap. She threw her head back and looked up at the stars. "Stop everything right here, please," she said. Raphael sat down. "Once, when I was a kid, it was summer, I remember wearing shorts and that hot light that bounces off the patio into the kitchen. I was standing in the kitchen, and you were crying at the table. You had your head down and your shoulders were shaking. You were crying that hard." Rosella made a little church with her hands. They were remembering T. Jr., with whom she'd been playing hand games just before Catherine took him to the motel. "Raphael, I know how it is when you get all drunked up and you go out and do some things that you just might not otherwise do. I just want you to be careful is all." She turned open the church doors to let out all the people. "Promise me you're being careful out there in San Francisco." "Why in the hell didn't you tell me that 20 years ago?" "Because I didn't know the words," Rosella snapped. "You couldn't say the words. A different thing entirely." "So you're young. You live in California. You tell me the words," Rosella said quietly. "I'm no fool. Even if I do watch TV, I know what's going on out there. What are the words for that? What words do you use?" The grind of the katydids grew louder in the silence that followed. Out in the yard, one of the card players let out a whoop. "Shoot the goddamn moon," he cried. "Are you sick already?" Rosella asked. "Is that what you're trying to tell me?" He told her then. He wasn't sick. Not yet. It would be a while before he got sick. A while, she wondered. 20 years, 10 years? "Nobody knows," he said. 3 years, she asked. "More likely 3 years," he said. "Or maybe 4. And then it would be maybe another year where he would have it under control, like diabetes. And who knows? They might have a cure or a way to put it off still more. Things were changing fast. Or he might come back here. That was possible, though it would mean dealing with the local doctors, who would be ignorant at best, and probably worse than that. He saw himself as having one kind of family here, another in San Francisco. It was hard to say which he'd choose, if it came to that. His friends in San Francisco had experience with this illness. There was a lot to be said for experience. He could speak to that. All this he said as if it were just news, the latest job, or the latest book he'd read. It came from some quiet and distant place, the place of the facts of things, which could neither be disputed nor changed, but only acknowledged. They sat for a long while in the Adirondack chairs, adrift on the sea of sounds from the night insects and tree frogs, and over all the whippoorwills calling. Finally, Rosella spoke. "Something about the oldest and the youngest. I know a mother's not allowed to have favorites, but there's something about the first and the last. You can't help but see them as a start and a finish. Begin all and end all. Punctuation," she whispered. "Don't tell me a baby learns everything while he's growing up. I knew every one of my babies before they were born. You were the quiet one. You just laid there listening until your time come, and then you got up and left, so quiet. You were gone before I knew it." She picked her words one by one, as if by saying them carefully enough, she might get them to mean what she wanted. "Would it have made a difference if you could have told somebody, talked to somebody, back then? What words could I have used? I'd never heard them. You'd never heard them. And even if I'd had the words, who would I have talked to?" This Raphael said not as an accusation, but as fact. spoken with a dispassion and certitude that silenced them both. The eastern sky grew light. A gibbous moon had risen, a ruddy egg born from the hollows into the rolling clouds. When it rose above the treetops, Rosella spoke. What if I had asked, when you got old enough? What if I had sat you down and made up words, if it had come to that? What if I had said, Raph, how can I help? Could I have helped? Could I have helped? Raphael asked. That day I found you crying in the kitchen. Could we have helped each other? They sat a while longer. From the ravine rose the churning chorus of the frogs and the voice of the whippoorwill, calling, calling, calling. Then Elizabeth came to the door. Last chance for dirty dishes, she said brightly. Raphael spoke. That was the day I learned what it meant to be helpless. Rosella stood heavily, clutching the flag to her breast. Raphael, the best thing about memory is that it forgets. I just plain don't remember. You won't remember. I just plain won't remember, she said dully. She gave the flag to Elizabeth, bent to plant an awkward kiss on his head, then stacked cups and plates and carried them in, her arms burdened like a waitress's.